A warm welcome, everyone out there, to our analysis of this year's address on the state of the European Union. Thank you all for being with us. And an equally warm welcome to the two honorable members of the European Parliament who will share their insights with us. Sandro Gozi, who is also the president of the Union of European Federalists, short UEF, and Lukas Mandl, also MEP and president of UEF Austria. Welcome.
Cool.
Thank you both for this precious opportunity to look a bit behind the curtains of the European Parliament and to shed some light on the address also from the perspective of the European Federalists. You both just experienced Ursula von der Leyen's speech live in the European Parliament in Brussels, and afterwards it was debated within the Parliament. Let's dive into your analysis of the speech with the first spotlight question. Mr. Gozi, what was your first impression of the address?
A letter to European youth. Very much welcome, indicating a Europe which multiplies opportunity for young generations, especially for those who haven't benefited enough of the big European project so far. I appreciated very much the proposal to expand Europe, which brings freedom to young people through mobility, the idea of this new ALMA project, which allows young unemployed people apprenticeship to benefit from Europe, to go around, to have a work experience in another country. I think that the best answer also to the criticism to say that after all Erasmus is a project for happy few. It is clear that Erasmus is synonym of freedom and of opportunity, must get out of university and schools, must also go to the working people, to the young unemployed people. I think this is a strong message, and I think that, as I say, it was a very good and promising letter to European youth.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mandl. What was your first core reaction to the address?
My first reaction is that, at least to my assumption, I'm very clear, this was yet the best State of the Union speech Ursula von der Leyen during her mandate gave. And I want to thank Daniel Gera and Jeff and everybody involved for organizing today's call, and also Sandro Gozi for having this call swiftly after the speech we have heard today. I agree in terms of the content with everything Sandro Gozi has already stated, and what I want to add is, first of all, climate change, secondly, security, and also the third field of, I would say, Europe's responsibility on a global scale regarding the crisis we face today. We could go deeper into each of these three issues, which seem to be of utmost importance among all the issues Ursula von der Leyen has shared with us today. But Europe has to be a leader when it comes to deal with climate change, and that's something she made very, very clear. And Europe has to even more stick together. And she also mentioned the responsibility of the member states here when it comes to security, also when it comes to proper understanding of intelligence, and also when it comes to cybersecurity, as well as when it comes to European responsibility in terms of migration. These are issues where we have listened closely, and we have heard statements which we can deal with here in our parliamentary obligation in European Parliament in the month and even years ahead. And again, maybe to conclude this statement, the member states' responsibility for all these issues were clearly mentioned by Ursula von der Leyen. We should not forget about the member states' governments who always have to be involved in order to create added value to the citizens of the European Union, which are the ones all these services have to be taken.
Thank you so much for your first impressions, Ursula von der Leyen. She talked about past successes and current challenges, about measures, plans, and possible solutions for a vast variety of different areas concerning European and global life. She addressed the COVID crisis, climate change, geopolitics, digital development, or social justice, just to name a few. We heard visionary ideas, for example, about an European health union. The European tech sovereignty was a topic, a joint situational analysis center, or becoming a leader in cyber defense or a trusted global gateway. Mr. Mandl, how do you see, as a European Federalist, all these topics, especially also the visionary topics? What issues you find in there that are interesting for a Federalist?
Well, a Federalist is always also a generalist when it comes to political issues. So I guess we don't should draw any specific borders here, but the field of security is clearly a field where we need a stronger Europe and a stronger Europe to the outside, especially on a geopolitical landscape. One of the promises of Ursula von der Leyen, and I'm honest if I say I had some doubts on that, and I still have some maybe, but one of the promises in the beginning of her mandate was that her commission would be the first geopolitical commission. This was what she has said, and I appreciated it very much, but it's easy to say that, and it's very difficult to realize it. But she has taken some steps forward with this today's speech, with the Joint Intelligence Center, as you have mentioned it in the correct wording, as the Commission obviously tries to name it, and also with this global player when it comes to economy. She explicitly pointed out that trade and exchange of goods and services with the US would be important. And that's something a Federalist can only appreciate very, very much, because it means that what Europe has achieved yet, and that's a lot, especially the common market, especially wealth and opportunities for generations, open borders, of course also freedom and peace to the inside, that everything of that Europe has already achieved can now have a lot of weight and leverage on a global scale when it comes to European values, to universal values, which are represented by Europe, especially in terms of climate change, but also in terms of human dignity, of freedom. Ursula von der Leyen also several times pointed out human dignity and freedom. So to put it in a nutshell, maybe the before mentioned security issues, and you got deeper into that already with the specific issues, as well as the global trade issues seem to be extremely highly to appreciate from a Federalist's perspective.
Mr. Gozi, as a European Federalist yourself, what issues addressed were most important for you?
I appreciate very much the concept of European security, which she dwelled upon, social security, health security, and art security. I would say that we have to move ahead in parallel in these three fields. So social security insists a lot on fighting against social inequalities, and also to ensure that the digital and the ecological transition must be socially just, socially acceptable. And this is a very sensitive and important point if we want to really fully implement and having a full support, ownership by public opinion and by national government of the new program for the digital, the ecological transition called Fit for 55. The second point is health security, to continue the good work that the European Union is doing to fight against the pandemic and to lay down the basis for a stronger health union, especially against global pandemics, transnational diseases, transnational challenges. It is absolutely important. This, security from the social and health point of view, it would be incomplete if it is not accompanied also by hard security. It is clear that the Europeans must become adults in terms of security and strategic autonomy. We don't want to put in question our strong historical alliance with the United States of America within NATO, but it is clear that we need to be capable to intervene to protect our interests where in areas, in geopolitical areas, or in situations where we have an interest to intervene and the Americans might not have an interest to intervene. So we have to be autonomous. That means to develop a real military capacity. It is clear also that this hard security, it must be preceded by a strong political will. And I agreed with the President of the Commission, where she underlined that after all, we haven't used the instrument at our disposal so far because also of lack political will. So I think that in the weeks and months ahead of us, we must work to build up a common analysis of our threat, of our vital threat, a common analysis of our vital interests, and also to identify in terms of security what we want to do better and more together to ensure our autonomy, and I would say also our sovereignty. And I think that it's very promising, the summit that she announced this meeting, the summit of the European Commission with President Macron, who will be the next rotating president of the European Union. France is taking on the rotating presidency of the European Union in January 2022. And the issue of defense, of security, of strategic autonomy, of European sovereignty will be at the core of his action. And from this perspective, it's absolutely important that this initiative is a real European initiative. So it's fundamental that the new presidency, the willing countries, and the European Commission work hand in hand. Of course, respecting a national tradition, respecting constitutional tradition, respecting constitutional commitment. We cannot oblige all the countries to take the same commitment, but we need to establish a core group of countries together with European institutions with the important role of control of the European Parliament, which build up a new concept of strategic autonomy of security. I think that our public opinion, the message should be, for each euro that we spend more on our security, on military, we should spend €1 for youth, for culture, for social protection. This is the way we can really develop a new concept of European security, which in my view is very, very badly needed now in Europe.
Thank you so much. Let's stay with you as answering the first next question. And this is the very big issue of how to translate all those ideas and plans that might really sound good and visionary into the practice. And also the European Parliament is kind of a threshold because here a lot of discussions take place. And as a member of the European Parliament, where do you see the biggest challenges for, growing Europe in the near future? Which topics will be especially hard to negotiate, for example?
I guess Sandro was addressed, but I can also go deeper into that.
Sure.
As you like, Sandro is
heading. It was to me. It was for Lucas. Okay,
I wanted to switch, to irritate you a bit. Yeah, no problem.
I tried to be brief, and thanks, Sandro, for the floor. Actually, there's a good example for all of that, and that's migration. And I'm happy that Ursula von der Leyen has addressed the matter of fact that it's already 1 year. It's a full year passed since the Commission has drafted and presented to the public its proposal for the new Migration and Asylum Pact of the European Union. But things are stuck in the Council, the Assembly of the Member States governments, as we all know. And Ursula von der Leyen has critically pointed that out today, and that's very important, and that's true for many, many other fields. I don't want to, let's say, only draw the attention when it comes to the question why sometimes things are slow, by far too slow in European Union. I don't want to point the finger only on the Council of the Member States governments, but there are always some, usually a minority, but this minority anyway put things on hold, and that's something we should overcome. We will need new structures in the future, but even before we will have these new structures, we will have to push forward, especially the member states governments, to realize what's really important again for the citizens of Europe. It's not just some political or philosophical discussion for a deliberation for people who like to deliberate, but it's really, really important for the European citizens of today and of the future.
Yeah, I think certainly migration and asylum are probably one of the trickiest negotiation. I fully share what Lucas has just said. I do believe also that it is one big problem as a federalist, the fact that even when the Council could decide by majority, they try to reach a consensus among 27. That means they always expose themselves to the veto of, for example, Viktor Orban of the Polish government. And I think that it is certainly necessary to combine, as we know, solidarity and responsibility, but we should also say that the time has come to proceed by majority, because we cannot be blackmailed at each round of negotiation by those who threaten a veto at the council level. So at least when we can, we should use the possibility of democratically decide by majority in the council, together with the representative of the citizens in the European.
Okay, I have a little technical issue now. I don't hear what Mr. Gozi is saying right now.
New initiative on taxation to fight against tax avoidance, to reduce the tax competition between member states, to ensure that the big companies who benefited so much from the 30-year success of the internal market also pay the right amount, the fair amount of taxes, as we all do, as each ordinary citizens do. That is going to be another, in my view, tricky, difficult file because of the need to overcome unanimity, but also because there are still strong resistance in some member states to go along the line of a more common approach in some aspect. I underline some transnational aspect, cross-border aspect of taxation. But that certainly is a strong message to the public opinion. Citizens expect more tax justice. Citizens are fed up with big companies who avoid to pay the fair amount of taxation. And I think that certainly it is an important battle to fight.
Yeah, let's stay a little bit longer with those critical issues. Ursula von der Leyen also mentioned press freedom. She mentioned, of course, the rule of law. That is very important. The basic human rights to be, looked after. How do you see the status of the momentary progress? Do you see there are measures in place that will, for example, help Poland and Hungary to achieve what we see as a democratic a basis of a state, or do you see it still stuck a bit? Whoever would like to answer.
Well, then I would go briefly deeper into that for a second. I also highly appreciate that in this State of the Union speech, also human dignity, freedom were addressed, and press freedom. Ursula von der Leyen has mentioned that there is one freedom that gives a voice to all the other freedoms, and that's press freedom. This was a very good sentence and something to quote, I would say. And rule of law, as I always claim, is the big promise of Europe to the inside and to the outside. And Ursula von der Leyen also said something similar, like each and everybody in the European Union, I would say also from outside, will always have to expect a proper rule of law structure in place in each and every member states. Independent courts, that also something that was mentioned in the speech. And the answer to your question is rather yes, because it was a shift of paradigms during the pandemic that what the European Parliament on behalf of the citizens always was pushing for, that there should be a link between money and rule of law. And there should be a leverage. If rule of law is not in proper place in a state or a structure, public structure within the European Union, then there have to be cuts in EU fundings. And that's something that had been decided in July last year, even a few months after the beginning of the pandemic. And this is a positive outcome of the crisis management, but we have to strengthen the whole idea and to realize the structures that will really provide us with the opportunity to use this leverage on behalf of the citizens of Poland or of Romania or of Malta or of the Czech Republic and other member states where there is reasonable doubt on the rule of law structures, and that's why my answer is rather yes.
Yeah, it is, in my view, it's the same concept of security of our values, security of our fundamental freedoms. In my view, it is very clear. You cannot play like an European when we have to receive a billion of taxpayer money as European fund, and then play the nationalist card when you have to respect the independence of the judges, the independence of the journalists, the fundamental freedom of the LGBTIQ people. And this is exactly what is happening in countries like Hungary and Poland. I think that the European Commission is already right in not having still approved the Polish or Hungarian recovery plan, because they want to see a real commitment in the implementation of some key reform like the justice sector. But I want the Commission also to implement the new regulation. Finally, we have managed to establish a formal link between the respect of fundamental values, the impact of violation of fundamental values on the European budget, and the possibility of freezing these funds for those countries who commit those violations. And the Commission is very shy, is taking time, is postponing the moment where it should implement. We want the Commission to use the full power which is given by this regulation right now, especially towards Hungary and Poland.
Yeah, let's come to the next point, the future of Europe. As you surely know very well, the citizens of Europe are asked these days for their ideas, visions, commentaries, critic points in the future Conference of the Future of Europe scenery. And as European Federalists, you have your own visions of Europe in the future. How would you like Europe to develop in the next years? And is there a possibility to follow your dreams by being an MEP?
I would say Europe should speak first, and then Austria follows.
I got high hopes, but I mean, I want to be also, I don't want to sound naive. I got high hopes because we have to do everything we can to make of the conference success. We have strongly pleaded to have this conference. We have fought as European Federalists, as members of the European Parliament to make it happen. Now the conference is there. There are 800 citizens randomly selected by the 27 countries who have accepted to work with the representative of the citizens, with us, with ministers, with commissioners in reshaping Europe. And first of all, we have to listen to them. We have to listen to what the citizens in the conference want from Europe, what they would like to have more from Europe, what they don't like about Europe, what they want to change. And I think that this is a phase of listening, of debating, and also of informing the citizens about what Europe is already today. There is also a lack of information. It's very important. But the conference is not only a big forum for debate, a big forum for exchange ideas, or a new information action of the European Union. The conference is a constitutional process, in my view. The conference is a constitutional process for reform. And we have to make sure that those reforms, be they treaty revision, be they new European laws, be they new European common policies, be they new foreign policy or defense initiative, everything is agreed in the conference, must be ensured a full follow-up. This morning, Ursula von der Leyen was very clear. I was pleasantly surprised. She was very clear in committing the Commission in ensuring a follow-up to everything will come up out of the conference. We will remember this word to the European Commission. It is clear that we have to make sure also that the different governments, which we will be all represented, because there will be representative of the national parliament, there will be representative of the Austrian parliament, there will be representative of the Austrian government. We make sure that also the government in the council will be ready to ensure this follow-up. But if we do so, we will have positively lived the biggest direct democracy experiences since the European Union was created. This process doesn't have any historical precedent. We are doing something really good to strengthen the European democracy, which of course it is a representative democracy. We don't fall out from the sky. We have been elected, Lukas and myself, by European citizens, but must be also accompanied, complemented by a form of direct democracy like this conference. And this is fundamental. It is clear that the more also the citizens register in the digital platform, the more we can listen to them, because there will be 800 citizens selected for the conference, would be physically work for the conference. But each of us, each of the 450 million citizens can share his ideas, can make proposals, can organize event and publish the event by registering on the platform on the conference of the Future of the Union. So I see this occasion to ask to our Austrian friend and to all those who are listening to us, go on the platform, register, and make your voice be heard.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Mr. Mandl, what's your perspective as a federalist on the future of Europe, but also on the conference?
Especially here, I like Sandro's energy, and I highly appreciate his approach that this would be a constitutional process, and I really wish a lot of success for that. And I agree that we have to listen to citizens who get involved. There are the 800 randomly chosen in the member states from different groups of society. On the one side, on the other side, there are more than 400 million Europeans who can join online, and I hope that at least a specific percentage of them can be reached to get involved into that process. At the same time, while the conference for the future of Europe is running, we have to follow up and go ahead with our regular parliamentary work, and the work in the other EU institutions is still necessary. Since I agree with Sandro's statement that this would be a constitutional process, in my view, no matter what the Conference on the Future of Europe structurally will be a success or not, we will need a new EU treaty. That's clear to me, because the structures in the Council of the Member States governments and in other fields are by far outdated. And the last treaty is the one of Lisbon, which was signed before the economic crisis, before the migration crisis, before the pandemic, before the era of digitalization as we know it today, before the era of artificial intelligence, especially before the uprising of China economically and other changes on the global landscape, also before the proper understanding of climate change we share today in our societies was given. So we need a new EU treaty in terms of content and in terms of structures. And what this treaty will be about, that's something that should be intensively discussed with citizens, as Sandro has mentioned, in the Conference on the Future of Europe and beyond, during our regular parliamentary work in daily life, in our constituencies and everywhere. This is, I would say, my approach. And since you have also asked what our visions would be on the future of Europe, I always put it in a small claim. And this is to work and to fight even for Europe with more strength to the outside and more freedom to the inside. This is just, let's say, a title or a claim, but it can be filled with very, very concrete political action. And it's something we try to do each and every day here in our parliamentary work.
So thank you so much. Our 30 minutes exactly are over right now. Thank you for your time and expertise. I wish you a lot of energy and good luck for your efforts to help building a better Europe, and have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day likewise.